On Sunday evening, Glenavon Football Club announced their intention to part company with Paddy McLaughlin. The former Institute and Clifton manager had lost the first 9 games of the season, and then on Saturday there was that 2-0 defeat to Crusaders at Mourneview Park. David, what's your reaction to Glenavon's decision to go a separate direction from Paddy McLaughlin?
I've got to put my cards on the table, Keith. I am very much a Patrick McLaughlin fan. When you look at what he's done at Institute and then at Cliftonville and what he did last year at Glenavon, I'm very much in his corner. I obviously have got him to know through management. He's an absolute gentleman, real studious manager, and he's just totally upfront in all that he does, and he's just a genuinely excellent gentleman. From his perspective, when you get that news, I'm sure that was very disappointing, frustrating, and I suppose some people, ask, was it the right decision? Was it not the right decision? Some people will point statistically to 9 defeats, and I understand that. And if you're on the Glenavon board, and if you're listening to the supporters, then you're thinking, okay, I can understand that decision. For me, you look at what the gentleman has done previously, you know what he is capable of, and the one thing, Keith, that you're always looking to do is that if you're looking to let a manager go, who are you going to bring in that's going to do better? I asked the same question when Gary Hamilton left, and it's something maybe Glenavon are battling with in terms of change of manager. You had Gary, then you had Stephen, and now Patrick. So, very sad from a managerial point of view. Being very cold, I can understand from a Glenavon perspective, board level and supporters, because the gap is beginning to get bigger, and I just hope that just from Patrick's point of view going forward, there's no doubt he will get another club. His credentials are there. And while this will have been a frustrating time, I think, but Barry Gray a couple of weeks back, and has been referenced, was give great clarity with regards to a start that Gary Hamilton had, and then Stephen O'Donnell had, and then Patrick had at the beginning of their seasons, and Stephen Beachamel wrote a great column in terms of becoming a bit of a yo-yo with regarding to managers. So there's something more there, and I'm not exactly sure what that is. But overall, my emotion is disappointed and for Patrick.
Yeah, we had Paddy in the studio not that many months ago, and at the time he was getting a lot of praise for the fantastic job that he'd done at Glenavon. He came in when they were in a sticky situation, and they'd improved and moved away from the relegation zone. It's amazing how quickly things can change in football. David, what do you think is next for Paddy? Would you expect to see him back in work at some point? I
would do. He's a young manager. He's a young man. This will have hurt, absolutely, but it will also have been a learning from him as well, Keith. Any situation that you find yourself in when it maybe doesn't go as well, the first thing that you do is you look at yourself. You look at your own performance. You look at at how you went about your business. Then you look at those around you. Could they have done better? Could things have been done differently? And then obviously you look at the players, and you look at the context of how well did they do? Did I have my best players available to me all of the time? Did I get the good fortune that I always required? So there's a number of things that you do, a process that you go through that you to learn from, and there's things you'll think, yep, I did that right, so I'll do that again. That's fine. And then there's other things you look back on and think, well, I maybe could do that differently next time. But I have no doubt, that this will be a disappointment to him. Absolutely, notably up until now, he hasn't gone public. He hasn't said anything, and that's the nature of the man. He's very quiet and doesn't go out to make big statements. But you haven't seen the last of Patrick McLaughlin. Make no mistake about that.
Well, from a Glenavon perspective, where do you think the Lurgan Blues are likely to look next? I mean, looking at some of the names that have been connected with the job, Oran Kearney is a standout name. Obviously did a fantastic job at Coleraine. two stints there. You've Dean Shiels, who obviously another former Coleraine manager. Michael O'Connor, former Northern Ireland international, former Glenavon midfielder, so knows the club. There's a number of names there that have been connected with this job. Is there any that stand out for you, David?
I think, to be fair, Keith, they all stand out. They've all got their own credentials in their own particular way. Most recently, Michael O'Connor, you've got Michael's career in England, which was very solid. He came back here, obviously played for Glenavon, worked with Dean Shiels as number 2 up at Coleraine. I think that experience and that departure from there on his behalf, I think that was a painful one. He's already made it known that if he got the job, he would bring Andy Doyle with him. Andy, an outstanding centre back who was been described as a Glenavon legend. Dean Shiels, hungry young man who again must have been disappointed, with moving on from Coleraine, having done so very well in getting into European, contention that year, having gone through the I wouldn't say trauma, but gone through the transitional period of going from part-time to full-time. Oran previously was the director of football. He has made it clear though that his days in management are not over, and there's been numerous others names that have been floated about. I think where we're at with it, Keith, ultimately it's a big decision for the Glenavon board. They have got to be to get this as right as they possibly can, and it's obviously going to be down to those who they're convinced are the best person to take their club forward. Gary Hamilton, I always questioned, the wisdom of letting Gary go at that particular time. He knew the club inside out, where he had brought them from, and what he had done. Although I've always often said that there always is a time for something to come to an end, but the last 2 appointments have been short. And so this is a big one. I can see Dr. Stephen Best has given a rallying cry, to the Glenavon support for this weekend. They've put an interim management team in place, but this is a big decision for Glenavon Football Club to make.
Well, thinking of some other names there, you touched upon it. Gary Hamilton at Ballymacash Rangers now. Could you see him coming back? Other possibilities: Darren Murphy, who's at Loughgall, and Dean Smith, who did a fantastic job at Loughgall in their first season in the Premiership, and then obviously the second season was a bit of a struggle. And
Stuarty King, who is down at Newry. I have no insider information. I'm only going based on the people, how I know them. I can't see Gary going back at this moment in time. I think that he and Paul McAreevy are there to do a job at Ballymacash, and I would be surprised if Gary returned. In terms of Stuart King, I think Newry showed great confidence in him, and I've given him a way forward. I can't see Stuart jumping ship. Darren Murphy also down at Loughgall. I was there at the weekend watching Loughgall against Ards, and certainly things seem to be progressing very well under Darren's leadership. So I can't see those 3 gentlemen leaving their positions. Dean Smith, probably the one issue would be around the suspension that is hanging over him at the moment. But he would be someone who has proved himself at Loughgall in terms of what he did there. Yeah, did tremendously well getting promotion. Their first season in the Premiership was excellent. Then some difficulties there, but so I can't see those coming from those gentlemen. But you never know. You never know. I'm second guessing, and ultimately, what I would be saying in all of my time, Glenavon have been an outstanding club. I have very fond memories of them. It was actually the last club that when I was managing Linfield was my last game there, and how myself and Rose and the family were treated was extraordinary. So I do wish them well in their search, and it's a big decision for them, and I hope, I'm not saying they got it wrong on previous occasions, but I just hope that they get a manager in that lasts a little bit longer than Patrick and Stephen.
Do you think maybe, David, what Glenavon need is a manager with a phenomenal amount of experience, who's won many Irish League titles in the past, a veteran who might come out of semi-retirement to help the Lurgan Blues?
Keith, you're very kind, but all I would say at this moment in time, no. I will not be submitting an application for consideration.
Very happy here with the Belfast Telegraph.
I am extremely happy doing what I'm doing.
Thanks for watching BelTel Football. If you'd like to learn more about all things Irish League, don't forget to subscribe to the Belfast Telegraph YouTube channel.